Hello everyone, today we're gonna look at the world champion who plays with the black pieces against Wei Yi, the best Chinese player. So he opens the game with e4, e5, knight f3, looking for an Italian or a Ruy Lopez, but Wei Yi surprises him with the Petrov defense. That means this pawn can be captured, but your pawn is also not defended. Gukesh takes, kicks out the knight, and now black takes. This is all well-known theory. Now white develops, attacking the knight and opens up this way so he can have quick development. But he has double pawns. Now Wei Yi is trying castle fast. He does castle and Gukesh plays this move queen d3. It's not the most popular move, but it is a move. And as we see there's shown in the theory, he just wants too long castle. Wei Yi develops the knight, long castle, and he didn't go to this square because these forward squares are already protected. And now he gets a tempo on the queen moves up, and the bishop develops with tempo, and the queen slides to the king's side, putting pressure. And now Wei Yi grabs center space, these squares, and maybe wants to slay f5 with c3. But now Gukesh plays his knight really nice in the center, attacking the bishop. Maybe want to grab the bishop pair, taking the queen just drops back to get out of the way of the bishop. And now the queen develops to connect the rooks, and you want to bring the rooks to the center. Also it had a threat to go here, pinning the queen to the rook, so the rook had to move. That's why Gukesh prevents that. And now he plays c6, solidifying the center. And Gukesh goes for the king side attack, because they're castled on opposite sides. As we see, you want to attack the other king with your pawns. And Wei Yi plays f5. He's not going for an attack of his own because he thinks white will be quicker and has more piece coordination, so he tries to make it more exciting. And now he wants to open up the rook and get an attack on the queen. Gukesh pushes because he doesn't want to open up and get his queen attacked multiple times. And now Gukesh, Wei Yi, nice move, f5, bishop has to draw back. And this is just very nice because you control a lot of squares with your rook and also with the pawn. He brings the other rook, and Gukesh brings his rook, looking for g6, or maybe just control these squares in front of the king and having the threat of going to g6. Wei Yi plays him in accuracy. He plays his bishop to this square, and now Gukesh takes and plays c5, attacking the pawn chain in the center. Knight moves to the center, the bishop pins the knight, and queen moves, and the knight is again pinned to the queen. Wei Yi just puts his bishop to a more active square, threatening the pawn if the queen ever moves, and just keeping control of these central squares. Gukesh takes the pawn, Wei Yi takes back, solidifying the knight, and Gukesh doubles the rooks because he wants to put more pressure to the queen. And here he makes a mistake. He plays knight takes d2, he takes the bishop, and he thinks it works because after a rook takes, you can take the queen, and after they trade rooks, and this rook is hanging, so you have to move it. Black is up a piece because he took a bishop, which white never recaptured. So after this move, if the rook takes, there's also a really nice move, bishop e3, winning the rook, or if they take with the pawn, you take back. Now white's queen is hanging, so it has to move somewhere, but the rook is also hanging. So what do? You have this move queen takes e4 with check, because if the queen takes, you have check, and after takes, you take the rook. It is a draw, but you don't want to take the queen over here. So then you have to move the king. Then after queen takes, you don't take back. You have this intermediate move. Pawn takes, d2, takes the rook with check, king moves, and now you take. And this is an endgame where you're up in exchange for a pawn, so it can be drawish if you're a computer, but most humans would just lose this position because the two rooks are just dominant. So that's probably what Wei saw, that he thought this will be a nice move, but Gukesh, really sharp, plays bishop takes h7, and that's because if the king takes, you get your queen that's attacked by the knight out of danger with a check. So if the king moves back, now you take black's queen, and you just won a queen in this position. But Wei didn't fall for that trap, so after bishop takes, he played the move king takes, king h8, and now Gukesh took back the rook, because still the same thing. If you take the queen, I take your queen, and if you take with the king, your king is kind of weak by all these checks. So rook takes, good move by Gukesh, and now the king takes, because now after this check the queen isn't hanging anymore, but the pawn in the center is hanging, and Gukesh doesn't drop back defending the bishop. He counterattacks by attacking the queen, but intermediate move g6 check, king moves back, and queen b3, because now you set up a discovery check, so you want to take the bishop with a check, or even better, rook h8, and then you can block. So maybe something like this with like unstoppable checkmate coming. So the bishop moves here with the check, can just be taken by the pawn, but Gukesh doesn't take it, because that means that Gukesh will get, after the take, you play queen takes, forking the king and the rook, so he would win a rook, so he just slides his king over, and that's what Wei does, because now the rook doesn't move with a discovery anymore on the king. And now he takes the bishop, rook takes, attacking the queen, and the queen just slides up. This pawn is a bit scary, but it isn't really doing anything. This is the only move, one of the only moves, because it stops this, because if the queen would have went somewhere else, maybe to like h4, then this queen sacrifice idea with back rank checkmate would be devastating. So the rook activates, and Gukesh plays his rook over here to stop all the threats of the back rank checkmate and defend his pawn, which was attacked by the queen and the rook. Rook moves back attacking the queen, queen moves forward, king comes back into the game, and Gukesh just makes a left, so there will never be anything on the back rank. He moves his rook back, and Gukesh grabs a pawn on the outside. Wei drops his queen back, attacking the rook. Gukesh defends it, and now f3, so the pawn is 2 squares away from queening, which is very dangerous. But Gukesh, nice move. Rook g8, and he offers a queen trade. Gukesh just takes it and plays rook f5. And in this position, Wei resigned, because he cannot defend the pawn. Because let's say rook f8, defending by skewering, check, takes, rook takes, you go behind, you might say, but Wei is down 2 pawns, but he has this really nice pawn. But it isn't really nice, because the king will just come over and they will trade rooks, win the pawn, and then it would be a king and pawn endgame with 3 extra pawns, and it's already winning with 1 or 2. That's why we resigned in this position. Really nice game of Gukesh, the world champion, and as we can see, 94.9 accuracy. It's really high accuracy, and way almost 90. Still okay, but you cannot really do anything if the world champion plays so good. So thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the game of Gukesh, our world champ.